Alright, welcome back. So let's move on to the body sculpting. Let me smooth that out. Okay, for the body sculpting, oftentimes I separate my head from the body because I don't really want to destroy what I have on the head. So what I do here is holding down control and use mask lasso just to mask the bottom area of the head, right? And then I can go for a subtool and split. I can split the unmasked point. Okay, that's gonna split the neck out. Okay, and then I can use the clip it up to start sculpting the body parts. I can turn on Sculptures Pro so that I can have whatever volume I want. Alright. So proportion wise, you can use the head as the unit to measure the other part of the body. So the ribcage is around like 1.5 unit length of the head, so that's the standard proportion. So what you can do is zoom out here and shift S to have like multiple copies of the head. And that's going to be your measurement. Okay, and then just go ahead and see, okay, that's one head. Okay, and the neck length can be varied, so I don't really want it to worry too much about that, but that's where the ribcage is, right? Okay, I can Control N to clear the canvas now. Okay, so that's going to be how big the ribcage is. Now that marks the very bottom of the ribcage. That doesn't mean that's where the, that's all rib. That's where other parts of the ribcage should go. But anyway, let me just use clay build up to mark in the volume. You can think of the ribcage as a oval shape, right? So it's going to be looking like this from the side view. Okay, something like this. And for male character, it's pretty flat or straight. For female, you have some. If the bottom one can get a little thinner for the waist, right? Anyway, and then I can smooth out that too much. And zoom in and smooth out the neck area. After blocking the ribcage's big volume, right, I can then specify where the clavicle is real quick. Okay, and then also the muscle, right, around the neck. Okay, so those muscles have really long names and they're Latin. So if you want to learn those names, you can go ahead and do that. I personally don't like pronouncing their name, and I forget those names many times. Right? I don't think they're super important. You kind of have to know they're there, right? That's the important thing, and their shape. Anyway, so that's the clavicle, right? And then moving on down, of course, we'll have the waist, right? So the waist will be like, the length can be like half of the head, and then moving on down to the pelvis. That's going to be the volume or the length of a head. That's basically how the volume will be, right? And then afterwards, of course, this looks weird, right? You can drag things around or start sculpting to have this entire torso blocked out. Okay, so let me give it more volume in the front. And for male character, again, it's more straight, and also the pelvis will not be bigger than the ribcage or the shoulder. Okay. Anyway, so you want to create this nice arc of body, torso body. And one thing I can do is double click on this dynamic. Right? That's how you can change the size to be a bigger size. So it's more based on the screen size. Anyway, so let me drag this part backwards a little bit. Now, depending on the pose, you may have this part, the hip part, to be more in the front, like this, more like a relaxing standing pose, right? Or you can have the chest be more in the front. That's more like really trying to stand straight, kind of like pose. Okay, so you can do either one. I mean, there's no. I think they both valid. Okay. Anyway. So that's going to be the torso, right? And I can use edge polish to mark out the pelvis. Now for the pelvis, you want to find some of the important landmarks. Basically, you have 3 primary points in the aces and pieces, and somewhere in the middle, I forget that name again. Anyway, so you have this one, and you have this big edge here, and you have the back goes in, right? Let me smooth that out on the back. For the back, one thing you can do is use damp standard, right? You can drag it down, holding down shift to create a line, and you can just ends up digging in the line. Okay. Anyway, so you can then smooth that out. That's basically where the spine is. All right. Now the ribcage is of course going to be wider on the bottom actually for real ribcage. Okay, and another important landmark for the torso, of course, is this big muscle here connected from the inside of the arm bone, right, to the top edge of the pieces on the back, or somewhere around that. Okay. Anyway, and then here you have, of course, the important scapula on the back. Okay. The scapular shape is more or less like, let me draw it this way. The shape is like this. Okay, so you have this and that, those 2 big points, and you just have lines connected to them, right? And they're gonna be connected eventually to from this. You have a little bridge on top, and that connected to the clavicle in the front, and that's when I kind of wanted to tweak where the clavicle is also, and have everything defined. This structure from the front of the front to the back, or from the clavicle, right? Go back and to the scapula on the back. That marks the top face of the ribcage, right? That's where you want it to be, and you have this another big muscle on the back, which is almost like a diamond shape. Okay. Okay, and then that's gonna be kind of like embedded here on that bridge I was talking about. So you have this bridge growing pretty straight, right, in the middle of this scapular, and you have this muscle kind of like growing from there, right? Sort of like a thing over there. So you can look at some anatomy books to see what that is, but whatever. I don't think I need to like explain every detail here. I don't want my tutorial to be like a anatomy tutorial, but rather sculpting, more focused on sculpting, right? Anyway, so we have that, and we have the big guy on the back. Okay, and it's kind of like connected to here, and you have a diamond shape over here. Okay, and you can smooth everything out. And here you have a little botch. That's the 7th spine bone from the neck down. Okay, so it's about jaws basically. Anyway, so that's that. And in the front, of course, you have the pectoralis major, or the big pec, chest muscle, whatever. In Chinese, it's called big chest muscle. I think that's the same meaning from the pectoralis major. It's just that language is it's so hard to remember. Okay, I don't know why it's still being used. I think maybe more like an English language to name them, but I don't know how you use those. People are still using that really long and hard to remember names for these guys. But again, the muscle is growing from the top of the clavicle, or the bottom of the clavicle actually, and then also some of them are growing from the middle. I think the middle bone, or chest bone, or it's called sternum, whatever, right in the middle. It's shaping like this, so that's connected to the clavicle here, and it goes down, right? And it gets a little bit bigger and ends with a little tip down there. But you know, they're going to be covered. It's going to be covered by the pectoralis major here, so I don't really care if I need to draw that out or not. Okay. Anyway, so I can make this part a little bit more visible or stronger. Right. And moving down, you have, let me make the ribcage a little bit more visible here. Okay. And moving down, you have the pecs, right? The muscles around the belly. And you know, some people are arguing like, is this like a 8-pack or 6-pack? And we keep saying 6-pack, but there could be, you can think of it as 8-pack actually, because you have like 4 on each side, more or less. Okay, and you know, because this part does looks like a division, more or less. And you have the second one to be where the belly button is. Whatever the shape-wise, they are pretty organic, so don't try to make them all square. Like, you can use move brush to change their shape a little bit, and also don't over exaggerate them, because you know, unless you really develop those muscles, they can be really weak. Okay. Anyway, so actually it's gonna be, so this is the first chunk, right? And you have the second chunk, and the belly button is on the third. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so the characteristic of these guys will be, you have the first one really long, and it gets thinner but higher, the second one, and keep doing that. The last one is the longest but also the narrowest. Okay, that's basically the how does it change. And the connection is not a straight line, but rather an arc. Okay, but you know, sometimes I don't think those things has to be applied like in their full extent, but rather you kind of know that general direction to go. But when you're sculpting, it's more based on the reference you have. So I'm not really saying that you have to follow that exactly. I think having a reference around is far more useful than, you know, trying to always follow the anatomy knowledge you have. And also, one more thing I think this is important, which is you always try to, that's actually the last piece here. So that's actually the last one big chunk. Let me drag this down. Okay. All right. Smooth that out. So you always try to find the important masses or the volumes you're creating. So even I'm getting those packs, I am always worrying about this bigger change down the body. So this arc, the arc of the ribcage, right? And how does this guy bump out, right? And you have the muscles around it, of course. Those muscles, right? They kind of like going across the ribcage and connected here, right? That's all of them going down there, and you can smooth this out. Okay. And also these guys, don't really want them to be super visible. And the back on the side of this you know, big muscle here, what you can do is you can basically create like 2 bulges in this one and that one, and smooth it out. And there are also these muscles I was talking about connected to the front. Okay. Anyway, so a very useful technique or understanding here you can have is how does the section of the body change. The body have this interesting change of its section from top down. So the shape will be like it's bigger on the back here on the top. So the width is bigger here and smaller in front. Okay. So if I can draw a line here, this is going to be the line going inwards. It's not that visible here, but I can try to drag it. But when you develop the pecs, maybe it's going to be equal, more or less. And when it reaches to the bottom, then this part gets bigger, the back gets smaller. Okay, so there is like a change of width from top down. Okay, and let me reposition this guy and smooth that out. Okay. Alright, so that's going to be the torso part. Now, there's not a lot of muscles blocked yet. Here, there's those chainsaw shaped muscles, smaller triangles going around it. Right. You can also block these guys. You can also see how the muscles are intersecting over there. Right. But again, don't bother those things if your character will wear garments, right? Because then they're not going to be visible. Do whatever you need and avoid anything you don't need. Because 3D production is really time consuming, no matter what you do. So you kind of want to save performance as much as possible. Okay. Anyway, so just some more refining of the shape, make them look a little bit more visible, I guess. I'm nowhere near trying to perfect them yet. I just wanted to, you know, look a little bit more popped out. Alright, so that's gonna be the torso part. Again, you can spend a lot of time here using the same technique I did on the head to drag things around. But oftentimes I don't worry too much about it yet, because I know that I probably need to figure out other parts, and after that I probably will also have a better idea of how the different sides will be afterwards, right? So I generally don't worry too much about the shapes yet, the bigger shapes on its full extent yet, but I will still worry about it on some level. But I just don't really think that's super. I have a tendency or a need to make it perfect yet. Okay. And again, the back, I think there's, depending on what kind of character you're making, the clavicle, the scapular can be totally invisible. It's not. It doesn't have to be there. Maybe it's embedded in, and the muscle is bulging out more than the clavicle sometimes, right? So this is scapular. So you don't always have to make that part visible by any means. Okay. All right. Cool, so that's going to be it for this video, and moving on to the next, I can then keep blocking maybe the leg and the arm, the hands, everything. I have everything there before moving on to do the big adjustment, and just blocking in the shapes there. Block those guys in, have those basic landmarks, and then you can refine them later on when you're done with the with all those things. When they're all there, it's easier to judge what's going on. Okay, see you next time.